Morning, everyone. It's so good to be all together again. It's great to see you. I'm going to start this morning with a piece called Land of Rest by Joseph Martin.
My name is Kathleen. I welcome all of you here for our service. And we have a very special lineup today. We have as our speaker, we have Cheryl Welsh-Charrier, who is a member of our church and has spoken here many times before and always has some very, very inspiring and enlightening thoughts to share with us. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then we also have here Barbara as our musician, who we know very well, and always plays incredible music. I always look forward to her. And so I just want to say thank you, both of you, for being here today.
It's fully awakened, as some of us have discovered with our allergies this week. But it also inspired my music selections. And when I think of spring, I always think of that beautiful Grieg piece, To Spring. However, I found one of his classmates, another Scandinavian composer, Katarina Elling, who wrote the next beautiful piece called Melody.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so grateful to be your speaker this morning. I'm grateful to be sharing the stage with Kathleen and Barbara. Thank you, Barbara, for that wonderful, beautiful music. The title of my talk today is The Bottom Edge of Normal, and it starts with a story. In October of last year, the younger of my brother's two teenage daughters was admitted to the hospital. She had been losing weight and her heart rate was at 35. The doctor said she should have been passing out. She's a dancer and a runner, and she had just run 4 miles a day or two before that. So within a month, they figured out what was wrong. Within a month, she was pretty much back to normal, well on the road to recovery. But the 4th day that she was in the hospital, my brother texted and said he had been looking at the heart monitor all day, and it was at 65, which is the bottom edge of normal. My brother is, among other things, a musician, and he said, if I ever make another recording, I'm going to call it The Bottom Edge of Normal. I wrote it down and started contemplating what it might mean spiritually and metaphysically. So if, as human beings, we were at the bottom edge of normal, might it mean that we had bottomed out in some way? Or might it mean that we were not yet completely in tune with our higher selves, which is truly our normal state? Or might it mean that we were on the edge of continued awakening? And if that's the case, would there be multiple bottom edges of normal? These are the big philosophical and metaphysical questions, folks. I think most of us awaken gradually and in stages. And this started me thinking about the spiral that Reverend Niles talked about a while ago. We might stay in one place on the spiral for a time in relative contentment and fulfillment. But then, after a time, which might be months or years or even decades, discontent or restlessness might enter. And what had felt like a transformative time in our lives would start to feel stale and unfulfilling. Hopefully, we begin a quest that leads us to continue up the spiral, arriving at a new plateau with a new vista, a new bottom edge of normal. Myrtle Fillmore referred to this as moving from one room into a larger, lighter room. But when life begins to feel stale and like it has no meaning, where do we begin to place our attention to help ourselves? Many of us begin by looking outside ourselves, sometimes blaming others for our discontent. We might think that a new job or a new relationship or a new location or a new hobby would help. Most of the time, though, it's only after we've spiraled up some distance, hitting different bottom edges of normal, that we finally understand that the problem is within and that nothing on the outside is going to fix it. Eckhart Tolle says, the true or primary purpose of your life cannot be found on the outer level. It does not concern what you do, but what you are. That is to say, your state of consciousness. The inner purpose is primary, the outer secondary. The inner purpose, which is constant and unchanging, is to awaken, and the outer purpose can change over time. He goes on to say, finding and living in alignment with the inner purpose is the foundation for fulfilling your outer purpose. These are certainly interesting, challenging, unprecedented, and perhaps somewhat fearful times that we have been experiencing. I sometimes feel like I might be losing ground, which I'm sure is entirely possible. Setbacks seem to be part of life. Perhaps you remember the graphic that Karen put up a few weeks ago called Illustrated Guide to Spiritual Awakening. I don't know if you can see it. So the universe kicks you off and then holds out and catches you again. Excuse me just a minute. Contemplating all of this brought me to unity principle number 4. Through prayer and meditation, we align our heart mind with God. Denials and affirmations are tools we use. As Unity Truth students, we know quite a lot about prayer and meditation. I heard someone say once that they were a professional forgetter, and I have to admit to being a forgetter from time to time. We find ourselves in a tight spot or a difficult situation, could be physically or emotionally, and suddenly we forget everything we've ever learned and feel like all our demons have come back. My son and husband have been schooling me in the Avengers movies during the last few months. In the Doctor Strange movie, the character called the Infinite One says that we never lose our demons. We only learn to live above them. I love that. If we choose to pay attention to our demons, thereby nurturing them, they'll hang around forever. Or we can practice what Tolle calls non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment, and learn to live above them. We're reminded over and over again in the Bible that prayer is the solution. From Mark 11, verse 24, so I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. From Job 22, verses 27 and 28, you will pray to him and he will hear you and you will pay your vows. You will decide on a matter and it will be established for you. The light will shine on your ways. From John 15, verse 7, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish and it will be done for you. But not just any prayer, affirmative prayer. So how is affirmative prayer different? I grew up with pleading prayers. Dear God, I promise I'll be good if you'll just make me thin, make me rich, give me a boyfriend. And then there were the make you feel guilty at church prayers, which is why I stopped going to church when I was in my late teens, which also made me feel guilty for a time. One of my daily readers said recently, for today, I need no formal knowledge to pray or meditate, just a conscious effort to open myself to whatever comes. In an Oprah Winfrey Super Soul Sunday episode, Carolyn Mace called God mystical law, the nature and or order of the universe, totally intimate and totally cosmic at the same time. She calls prayer the negotiating principle, with miracles happening when God bends the laws for us. A little different take on God and prayer that I found interesting. One of Unity's main textbooks is H. Emily Cady's Lessons in Truth. She devotes an entire chapter to denials and affirmations each. I understood the affirmation part, but it took me some time before I really understood the denial part. My mind would go, well, I can't really say that this is not happening to me or the world because it is. It wouldn't be denying it be the same as being in denial? This is one of the things she has to say about denials. All your happiness, all your health and power come from God. They flow in an unbroken stream from the fountainhead into the very center of your being and radiate from center to circumference. When you acknowledge this constantly and deny that outside things can hinder your happiness or health or power, it helps you to realize health and power and happiness. Being in denial? No. Denying that outside circumstances have power over us? Yes. She continues in the chapter on affirmations. Denials have an erasive or dissolving tendency. Affirmations build up and give strength and courage and power. In the 12 powers, Charles Fillmore refers to affirming and denying as binding and loosing, saying, "It was not the personal Peter, representing faith, that Jesus gave the keys to his kingdom, but to all who through faith apply the binding and loosing power of the spirit of earth. By binding ourselves to faith, we loose or release ourselves from that which prevents us from continuing up the spiral to our new bottom edge of normal. Do we have doubts about whether our faith is strong enough? I do, sometimes. Charles Fillmore says to say, I have faith in God, I have faith in spirit, I have faith in things invisible. Say it with me. I have faith in God, I have faith in spirit, I have faith in things invisible. It's that simple. In Braiding Sweetgrass, a book of essays by Native American Robin Wall Kimmerer, she says, the Sky Woman's story, a creation story, is a constant star in the constellation of teachings we call the original instructions. These are not instructions like commandments or rules. Rather, they are like a compass. They provide an orientation, but not a map. The work of living is creating that map for yourself. How to follow the original instruction will be different for each of us and different for every era. She also says that time is circular and the stories are both history and prophecy, which is probably a whole other talk. We might consider our spiral as our compass, pointing the way, and our resting places along the spiral as the map we are making. Let's discover what our maps might look like as we continue our journey on the spiral. Clearly, our way forward in reaching the new bottom edge of normal is through prayer and meditation to align ourselves with the divine, and through denials and affirmations to keep us moving along the path. A few weeks ago, Reverend Clive de la Porte talked about the powers of faith and imagination. For our meditation today, we're calling on those powers and going on a journey. So let's get centered and focusing on our heart space, become one with the love that we are by aligning with our indwelling Christ. To borrow from Tolle again, only when you align yourself with the greatness of the present moment do you have access to the greatest power. Jesus was referring to this power when he said, "It is not I, but the Father within me who does the work." And remembering that, it is not I, but the Father within me who does the work. Breathe consciously for a moment and perhaps affirm that faith will guide your journey and imagination will shape and define it. Think of a place or time in your life where things felt out of balance and without purpose or direction. Restlessness and discontent have begun, and you feel the calling to continue the journey up the spiral that we will call the Mountain of Transcendence. We begin slowly, observing the view as we go. What is there about the view that makes you want to continue the journey? Is the view beautiful and harmonious, but you sense that there is even more beauty and greater harmony to come, and you recognize that it's time to move on? Or perhaps it might be chaos and discontent, and you know it's time to leave it behind. What does your heart want you to see. Perhaps there's something that tells you this is not the right time to continue your journey, and that's okay. We all journey in our own time. Listen to these words from a recent daily word. I find the seed of good within any challenge or difficulty I encounter. I nurture that good with faith, non-resistance, and a positive attitude. Grateful for my oneness with God, I continually grow in spiritual understanding. I'm going to read that again. I find the seed of good within any challenge or difficulty I encounter. I nurture that good with faith, non-resistance, and a positive attitude. Grateful for my oneness with God, I continually grow in spiritual understanding. And we breathe that in. The journey continues as we listen to, see, and feel what is all around. If fear creeps in, we deny that it has any power over us and affirm the good in all things as we continue. Here is a plateau, a resting place. Is there something in this place that calls you? It says, rest here for a time, for there is much to learn here. Is this your new bottom edge of normal? You sit and take time to contemplate, completely open to inner guidance and the infinite possibilities that await. Perhaps this is not your new bottom edge of normal, and you have farther up the spiral to go. If that is the case, once you are rested and nurtured by the beauty that you see here, you express gratitude and continue your journey, affirming that your new bottom edge of normal awaits you. If this is your place, the place you have been led to, you express gratitude, affirming that you are open to the guidance and sacred teachings being offered here, and rest in silence, free from thought and at peace with yourself and the world around you. Yes, even in the midst of chaos and unrest, we can be at peace with ourselves and the world around us. And so it is, and so it will always be. Alleluia. Amen.
I love spring. I know most of us do, and it gets our energies going. And I have to confess, it brings a bit of the imp out in me. And so today I've selected a little whimsical tune, tapping into some of that whimsy and imagination that Kathleen spoke of earlier in our service. And I hope you can identify the creature that I'm playing about.
our centering prayer now. And to go along also with the earth, but also this is just dealing with now. It's called this is a Buddhist poem called Over Cherry Blossoms by Shintaro Tanakawa. Over cherry blossoms, white clouds, over clouds, the deep sky. Over cherry blossoms, over clouds, over the sky. I can climb on forever. Once in spring, I with God had a quiet talk. Amen.